What is up, you beauties? It is BatchatBegins, back again with another content update video for you all. Today we are going to look over what is coming in update 7.4 that Wargaming is going to bring out soon. And in my opinion, 7.4 is a step in the wrong direction. Right now I'm on my Discord, and on my Discord I have a news section, which is where Blitz Post goes ahead and puts the majority of their information for the upcoming updates. As you can see in update 7.4, we're going to get new camouflages and new missions for clans, which is great. I think that's a good idea, personally, and you can see these camouflages actually look pretty nice, in my opinion. That one that's there on the screen, the shoulder-to-shoulder one there, I actually really like that one. It looks pretty great. And as you can see, here's the layout for what it's going to look like. It's going to be right above your normal missions inside of your garage. But when you take a look at what is being buffed, that's where the problems start to come in. For instance, the Panzer IV, tier 6 tank destroyer, right? Already had the highest DPM for a tier 6. It had tier 10 medium tank DPM. It already had 3250. They're buffing the alpha damage from 210, I believe it was, to 250. Effectively making this thing have 3700 DPM. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you give a tank like this that much DPM at tier 6? The grill has 100 more DPM than a tier 6 tank destroyer. This thing is going to destroy everything, and it's not going to even be close. This thing will have the highest win rate, highest average damage, and most survivability of any tank destroyer at that tier. They're also buffing the Nashorn to have 250 alpha damage, and they're buffing the penetration a little. The majority of this update will be tank destroyers. It'll be from tier 6 to tier 8. The bigger problems also come from the tier 8 buffs. For instance, the YAG-88, right? Got buffed not too long ago. Has one of the highest DPMs in tier 8, right? 3100 DPM. They're not only buffing the penetration of the tank, they're also raising the alpha damage to 350. This tank is ridiculous already. It's strong in a good player's hands, but now it's going to be strong in everybody's hands. You don't even need to know how to play it to completely destroy an equal or higher tiered vehicle. I'm going to be showing you some replays here after I go over these buffs of the SU-152 with a 122mm, which will now actually be a solid choice because they're buffing the penetration up. They're also buffing the penetration and damage of several other tanks. The AT-15A, the AT-15, both of them are getting penetration and alpha damage buffs. The SU-122-44 basically is now going to be a tier 8 WZ tank destroyer. It's going to actually have penetration now. The only drawback for the tank was that it didn't have penetration, but now it does. So I don't know what Wargaming is thinking, making tanks that have very few drawbacks. Like, it doesn't create a good game atmosphere, in my opinion. And it really, really makes you wonder what's going to be going on. Like, you can see here my initial reaction. Like, why are they giving the YAG Tiger 88 350 alpha damage? It makes no sense. But hopefully all those changes won't come to pass. And if they do, I'm hoping they do get rebalanced very soon. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I'll be in there wanting to talk with you guys if you guys do have any opinions on it. And if you really want to voice your opinions, make sure you do it in the comments, or that you let Wargaming know, because, you know, we're the community that they're serving to. And so we should be able to give our feedback, in my opinion. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into the games, so I'll see you guys at the end of the video. In this first game, I am taking out the SC-152, but if you'll notice, I am not using the 152mm gun. I am instead using the gun that is getting buffed in the upcoming patch, which is the 122mm. Now, they both have similar DPM characteristics. Both of them are over 3k DPM. But the problem with the 122mm is it has very poor penetration both on the AP shells and on the gold shells, which just happen to be APCR. That will no longer be the case in the upcoming update 7.4. This thing is getting near to 200 on its standard shells, on those AP shells, and it's getting a pretty substantial buff to its APCR shells as well, meaning that you're going to be able to pin things and have that consistent DPM with very little drawbacks. As you can see in this game, we are coming up against 2 Annihilators, which are the new event tank, a Smasher, a Ferdinand, and a Tankenstein. And those are all very difficult pins with this gun, even though I'm using a full gold loadout. But that won't be the case soon enough. Here you'll see that the SU-2 will have two separate viable gun options. It will no longer have an inconsistent top gun, and it will be able to use that 122mm to be very effective on the battlefield. Even though I am spamming full APCR, as you can see here, I am struggling to pin certain areas of tanks. Now obviously it's not going to struggle to pin the side of a Tankenstein, but the problem is the inconsistency of the gun. It is not incredibly accurate, and dealing with that penetration loss that you have over distance with APCR and the terrible AP mean that this is a rather inconsistent gun at the current moment. In the upcoming patch, though, it will be a much, much better gun in my opinion, and it will be a solid second option in case you're looking to try out some variety on your Tier 7 tank destroyers. At the moment here, we are just kind of staying at the back, trying to figure out where we need to go. I saw here on my left the WZ-110, and I know he can hold that Annihilator back on my left side, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue shooting Tankenstein, trying to pull back, get unspotted, and then pull forward and deal some more damage with this gun. As you can see, the DPM is quite great, and if I was able to effectively make use of those standard rounds, I wouldn't struggle so much. We know that the Smasher just fired at the tank on my right, and so we were able to get one more shot into him. You'll notice, though, that that Annihilator did a very, very big chunk of damage to us, and that is because that tank has that 3-round clip with that 0.6-second shell interval time. And my good gracious, it is such a strong tank. I put it right up there with the Smasher as far as effectiveness in Tier 7. But there are a lot of tank destroyer buffs coming, meaning that Tier 7 is going to be a much more varied tier soon enough. And as you can see, during this game, we actually missed out on quite a bit of damage. We shot the Ferdinand twice and bounced twice because of the inaccuracy of the gun, and we shot the Annihilator once on the side of the turret and also bounced that because of the penetration. We failed to penetrate the Annihilator once again in the side of the turret. So I think that this penetration buff is going to be a very welcome change, and it will help diversify the Tier 7 tank destroyers. We're going to go ahead and move on into the end result screen because this last Annihilator is a little bit too quick for me to catch, and he goes ahead and dies by my teammates. As you can see, the battle is finished, and taking a look at the results screen, we lost out on approximately 1,600 damage with those 3 shells bounced, and we could have had a much better result in this game. 2,400 is nothing bad, but it could have been a lot better. As you can see, the accuracy was not great either. Moving on into the second game, we have got a tank that I used to love to drive, but has been power crept very, very heavily, and that is the SU-122-44 Tier 7 Soviet TD. I like this tank, even though it's not super strong right now. I just feel like it's a Tier 7 version of a SU-122-54, and it just has better armor profile, I think, tier for tier, which means that it can be quite good at YOLOing. But do I think that it needed as good of a penetration buff as it is getting? No. It is getting approximately 195 millimeters of AP pin and 237 millimeters of APCR pin. That's too strong. I'll flat out say it, that is too strong. This tank can be too aggressive and too consistent at that point. Tanks need to have drawbacks, and I'm not sure why Wargaming thinks that they need to make every tank a jack-of-all-trades type tank. It's nifty when there's a couple of them, like the E5, which can do everything and isn't weak at one certain thing, but if you start taking away the weaknesses of certain tanks, their playstyle just becomes similar. It becomes boring, and it just breeds this generation of people who think they can just run at you and shoot at you with impunity. As you can see, we're still doing a great job of effectively supporting our medium tank teammates here. We took out this medium tank here at the cap on dead rail, and we're going to go ahead and put some pressure on the heavies from the flank. And you're going to see this is going to be very effective. It's going to neuter their presence here in the middle of the map. And as you can see, we're easily able to deal with these tier 7 heavy tanks. Even from the front here, you'll see as he begins to turn, we don't really struggle too much, even with APCR. I don't know why Wargaming feels that it's necessary to buff these TDs to the point where they can go ahead and penetrate through the heaviest armored tier 8s in the game. It defeats the purpose of the tank being lower tier, and I think that's a problem. With all these buffs coming out, they're making tanks incredibly strong while really negating any sort of risk that would be involved with taking aggressive movement. The Jagdpanzer IV, the Jag Tiger, they're going ahead and buffing quite a bit of other TDs as well. I would love to see them go ahead and buff the T-28 prototype and the T-28, two tanks that I think struggle immensely. But instead, they're opting to buff these tanks, which aren't even really struggling, albeit perhaps statistically. And as you can see, we did die here, but not after completely wrecking the flank and taking care of those heavy tanks on our way to victory. We did 2,400 again. Not a bad result. And we could have gotten a lot more had we been more aggressive much more quickly. And that's the problem, I think, at this point. These tanks are already strong, so go ahead and address the tanks that have been weaker. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. All relevant links will be down in the description. Make sure to tell me what you thought of these buffs, and I will catch you guys in the next one.
I still see your shadows in my room. Can't take back the love that I gave you. It's to the point where I love